she said, you know, traveling around the Middle East, especially in places like Turkey and even in Iran, because they did a couple of trips to Iran. She said in those days, in the 60s, of course, the road systems were completely different and in many places very poor. And they'd travel through the Turkish mountains, for example, and they'd camp, or in Iran, and they'd camp near a tribe, near a village, and she said they could always see and admire the beautiful weavings and the textiles inside the tents or in the houses. And my mother was never scared of talking to people. If she saw someone wearing something interesting, she'd go up and she'd talk to them to find out more about what that person was wearing. And that's how she gathered her information in the future. And so she started developing this interest in the textile, embroidery, and jewelry traditions of the region, the Middle East, at the time. But she did work all over the Middle East, and she was interested in the dress of the Arabian Peninsula, of Palestine, of Jordan, of Syria, and perhaps maybe one of the biggest contributions she's made to the work on our collection, but also to a particular subject, is her work, this is just from various parts of the Middle East, perhaps the costumes and embroideries of Palestine, which of course she wrote a book about. And now we go to Syria. We're just skimming across all this because there are so many areas, but Syria is a country that she really explored very well. These girls are from north of Damascus in the Qalamun Hills, I think they call them. And she loved Syria. She loved traveling around the country. Again, she would go alone, she'd hire a driver, or she'd go with friends. And she traveled absolutely everywhere. She traveled all the way to Deir ez-Zor. She went up to the north. She went west towards Hama and Homs and Ladqiya and all these places, everywhere. And she took some pictures like these in the beehive villages in the north of Syria. And before I finish, I can't talk about my mother and the museum without mentioning what she and, of course, my brother who's sitting there did to save this museum during the invasion. Now, lucky for us, we had around 20 carpenters working for us when the invasion happened. And the minute they discovered that Kuwait had been invaded, they called all the carpenters directly to the museum. Anything that could be removed, like the manuscripts, so they've removed all the manuscripts from there. Items like that they removed and they hid. Of course, some in the jewelry section it was impossible to move because there are thousands of pieces in there, so they couldn't remove it. But what they did was, because the museum has various little rooms, they'd wall them off and wall sections off so that if anybody, in the event that anybody did come in, they wouldn't know. For example, we have one room which was the gold room that was completely sealed off until Kuwait was liberated. And that's them reinstalling things, putting things in order after the liberation. Thank you.